Part of it was also if I could see you and get you with your mouth full and bring you on the air and create like an unnecessarily awkward situation to start the show.
I had to
You
mute
know,
myself to start.
yeah, just so that we could do this in true guys fashion because there is no theme music or anything like that, even though we've talked about it. But at this point,
Yeah.
I figured we just kind of start the show how we start the show. And whatever it is that happens to fall out of my mouth at the beginning of the show is just what it is.
And we get to episode 50, get some theme music.
Episode 50 is coming up, and
that's true.
7 episodes. We're going to have a celebration. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That obtuse rambling can only mean one thing. It is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports podcasting. Yes, it is the Too Many Guys soccer show. And in Too Many Guys fashion, we start with only 2 of us because that's where our roots are. How you doing this week, Stead?
Doing all right. I'm a little sleepy, but yeah, it was a good weekend. Good weekend for sports. Great weekend for sports, actually. So yeah, I'm doing all right. Doing pretty good.
Yeah, plenty of games to watch on Saturday. The NFL started on Sunday, which means all of our part-time fans are probably gone now that there's an actual real sport to watch instead of baseball. Our musings on cricket, track, and the Olympics and football and European football only hold so many people over for but so long.
That's right.
Now that the NFL has started, our viewership is going to go down by 50%. That means maybe one person will listen to us now.
Yeah, one person that's not London Sean.
Or his friends who don't care about NFL football.
Right.
But, it was a good week, and we did have a good doubleheader. I watched some of Leeds yesterday and then caught the NFL game and then found out I was too lazy after the Eagles game to turn off the TV when they switched over to the Packers and Saints and didn't realize until halftime that the Chiefs were playing the Browns and it was a really close game. So then I had to watch the end of that.
Yeah.
And after that, I was just so tired because we partied hard on Saturday for Cristiano Ronaldo's return.
Yeah, there was also I think Los is going to skip out too because fantasy football, Los had Aaron Rodgers. So I imagine he's not the happiest person right now.
Ouch. That hurts.
It's fun. I never had good luck with Aaron Rodgers. A couple of times I've had him on my teams. I've never had good luck with him.
I just never know how to react to fantasy football. I know that you want to pick the guys that you like and so you can support your team, but then you pick everybody else. So you find yourself rooting for your own home team, but then hoping that the guys on your team do well. So it's like, can I get a 27? Can I cover? But I need you to have 300 yards and 3 touchdown receptions.
Right. Well, yeah, I have the Eagles, I think running back or as my flex, and I was cheering for him like crazy.
Yeah, but that doesn't impact. I mean, in this game, it didn't impact the Washington football team.
That's true, but it's funny too because I was looking to get the quarterback from the Chargers, so I didn't get him. I was wanting him because Josh Allen. I have Josh Allen, but I was like, let me see if I can get this guy as a backup, and yeah, he got picked up.
It'd be one of those ones where the over-under is 46 and there's a 3-point differential and you're figuring out the permutations so that the guy that you need to score three touchdowns can still score, but you can get the under and your team can still cover. And then that's when you come up with this. What I really need you to do is figure out a way to score exactly 22 points.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
And then it's 21 winding down. It's 20 something, and you're like, can you just get a rouge?
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't my worst thing this weekend too, because I joined a pick'em league, and I hadn't even put in my deposit yet, and my pick is already out. So I'm not in the pick'em league. I was like, damn, I've only been here for 4 hours. I'm already out.
That's like last man standing amongst the pod. Apparently, the last man standing was nobody because we haven't done that in forever.
Yeah, it's true.
We
Yeah,
need
we gotta start that up. Get London Sean. He's supposed to pop in this evening, so we'll get
yeah,
that
we're
on.
gonna have London Sean is gonna hopefully pop in. G's gonna make his triumphant return, having had power now for a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting Larry, the insurance guy, to be on later. He's gonna hang out, even though we'll get a quick input from him on City, but they're kind of one of the smaller stories. It's like they won.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about with City.
Big deal.
City. I mean, maybe it's good that Leicester only lost 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about that, but
yeah, they Leicester only won 1-0 or lost 1-0. We'll get Byron Robb on. I want to pick his brain about Leipzig. I don't know if you caught it, but they're after this one. Jesse Marsch is sitting 12th in the table.
Yeah, I have been paying attention to that. I have, and it's one of those things too where you'd hate to have that happen to an American coach who's basically, from the club level perspective, this is the highest an American coach has ever been. So, you want him. He's young. He's still a young guy, but you want him to succeed, especially in the Bundesliga at a club that finished third last year. Yeah. So it's disappointing. It is, but it's also early. It's early. So, but that's what happens when your manager, your best player, and another of your best players all go to Bayern in the same year. I mean, what do you do?
I think that's the thing, and I think that with Leipzig, they have kind of announced their intention without really saying it, but this is a financial business model, right? Even though they probably do have the wealth to keep these players, they don't seem particularly keen on doing it. And it's all about buying low, developing, and selling high. And we have seen with other teams, you can do that for but so long before you tail off for a little bit. Now, what tailing off for them looks like, is it that they finish out of the Champions League? Is it that they finish in the lower half of the table? What's the aim? Jesse Marsch has been at NYCFC. He had some success there. He also had some years where they weren't as successful as they may have wanted to be. They ultimately did not win a MLS Cup while he was in charge, but he was promoted. He took the assistance coaching job under Ralph Ragnick before Ragnick got promoted. He proved himself at Salzburg. He's kind of worked his way up the ranks. You feel like he's almost the epitome of a company man. And
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You hope that with all the resources and time that they've put into developing him, that they're going to give him a fair shot to see what he can do. And plus, he's putting in a new system with new players. That high pressing system, we've seen it work with the likes of Borussia Dortmund and other teams, but it takes a while before it kicks in. Everybody knows what they're doing. Right. And even with Ralph Hasenhüttl at Southampton, when you don't necessarily have the players, it can go really, really well, or it can go really, really badly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just so happened that Bayern's forwards and defense, their attacking players from the back in the form of Alphonso Davies and their attackers up front were sterling on this particular game, even if their midfield looked a little bit run over. And let's not, and the last thing, and we'll bring this up with Rob, is whether you believe in Wolfsburg or not, one thing that you have to look at is RB Leipzig's start to the season has not been the easiest. I mean, 3 of their losses have come to teams in the top 4. So
and their 1-goal losses outside of Bayern Munich, it's 1-0. They're not. I mean, a couple of hits off the right shin guard the right way, that could easily be a draw or even a win for Leipzig. So, yeah, I mean, outside of the Bayern loss.
I know, like, they're the most hated club in Germany.
Even more than Hoffenheim.
Yeah, and I understand why. The Bundesliga is by and large a very, very West German league. They're an East German team. The Red Bull sponsorship and the things that Red Bull did to make sure that RB was the first letter. Certainly the whole corporatism and the German sentiment towards anti-corporativism, I can understand that. But outside of Germany, should they be as hated as they are? Because it's not like a club that's come in as the evil empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their ownership did not pull a PSG or Man City where they come in and then just buy everything up so they can start competing for titles right away. If anything, I mean, they're doing it the right way. You're not.
You would expect more out of them given the financial resources that they had.
Agreed.
Now, we can argue about the fact that, yes, they bought the team, they rebranded the team, and then they bought it up and they paid out enough to get them up through the leagues to the Bundesliga.
Mm-hmm.
And they were probably way more competitive in their first season in the Bundesliga than you would expect a team that was coming up from a lower division to be.
Mm-hmm.
But since they've been in the Bundesliga, it hasn't been a case where they've actually been bringing in all the top players. They haven't said that, oh, we're going to do a Man City or PSG, like you mentioned, and buy ourselves good. No, they've done it with young coaches, young players, bringing it up through the system, bringing in guys. Now, the other thing is how you feel about the fact that it seems to be very close shop. They bring in Jesse Marsh from NYC,
from within,
from RB, from Red Bull. They bring in, Brendan Aronson is at the Salzburg outfit.
He's at Salzburg now. Yep.
We expect to see him at the mothership. It just seems like everything.
And Tyler Adams is there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like they've done everything to bring in sort of everything leads to the mothership. But
you have to wonder, though, due to the fact that they have to be well aware of their reputation within the Bundesliga and within the German football culture. But the way they've been bringing up talent from outside of Germany, especially the United States, you can kind of wonder, are they looking to put a big footprint for their brand in the United States, considering where they already have an MLS team and they have American players and they have an American coach? That's never been to this point before. I could easily see RB Leipzig developing more of a following over on this side of the pond.
I think that's a conscious effort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that fact is lost on them.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that beyond that, they see America as a fertile ground for talent, both in the managerial and the players' perspective.
Agreed. That's what I was hoping you'd get at. Yeah.
Nobody has effectively tapped into as much as they have. And they see this as, okay, we can get a foothold in MLS and we can get those Alphonso Davies, those players to come over because we'll have great scouting reports and a relationship with them. We can get them and we can use this to our advantage. Now, the question is going to be, what do they do with this talent when they get it?
Yeah. How long are they going to keep it? Yeah.
And I don't think that, I mean, are they keeping it to develop and send it along? Are they keeping it with the thing for just marketing? What is the end game? But I think it is the ultimate goal is to win championships. You may not agree wholeheartedly with their methods, and a lot of what they're doing with their MLS, with RB Leipzig is the same thing that they kind of do with Formula One, right? They're the only brand in Formula One that races 4 racers, 2 full teams. They have the Red Bull team, and then Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, whatever they want to call it, which is the minor league squad. And you've seen them bring drivers up from that junior club to that before, and they've used that. But it's like, okay, so you have double the cars of everybody else basically under the shops, so you're getting double the opportunities sometimes.
Right.
Now, do you like, but they have never really, despite that fact, on the one hand you can say, okay, well, you've got double the opportunities, but on the other hand, it's not like let's call them the B side, Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, whatever they want to call it. I think it's AlphaTauri right now, has ever really been the team to compete at the top. Like those drivers aren't competing head to head normally with Max Verstappen, right? Red Bull, the main mothership, gets all the resources, and then the other one's a training outfit. Kind of like they're going to make Red Bull Salzburg really good, but we don't expect Red Bull Salzburg to be winning Champions League finals.
No. They're group staging at best. Yeah, absolutely.
But
what's up,
hey,
Cam?
Hey, Cam's here. Cam's here, and I believe Cam is resplendent in a brand new 2021-2022 Celtic away kit with his new favorite player on the back. Kyogo. How you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously some worrying news with Kyogo out for about 7 games, picked up an injury, playing Japan against China. Looks like it's nothing too serious. And I think as we saw over the weekend, we do now finally have some depth in our squad. We can have players like Yeti step up and, scored 2 goals at the weekend. We had Carter.
Carter Vickers.
Yeah, thank you. It's a mouthful. We had his debut, and he scored. So, I think some positive signs from over the weekend. On the more negative side, Dominic McKay was in the office for about 5 minutes, and now he's left. Still not clear what's happened, but from what we've seen, talking and some rumors, it appears that he wasn't really being allowed to perform his duties. And that Peter Lawwell has still been behind the scenes at Celtic, which is angering a lot of fans. He was supposed to have stepped down. They were doing a handoff period, but now it looks like he's back, and he's still trying to control things even when he shouldn't be. So seemingly this is, as I say, it's rumors, but it's going around pretty widely that they're accurate, that he just essentially hasn't been able to do his job, and the board is still trying to control everything behind the scenes.
So you touched on just about everything that I was going to get on. So I want to go into more detail about these couple of things. Let's start with the performance on the pitch. It started off a little bit on the slowest side, but Ross County's a team that, that's the type of game that they play, a little bit more on the defensive side, try and clog it up, hold it out as nil-nil for as long as you possibly can, hope that you don't go down. And once the goals came in, I think it was Ayeti who opened up scoring, or was it CCV?
I believe it was CCV, if I remember correctly.
All right, so CCV opens up scoring, a great debut for the forgotten American.
Yeah.
There, and they get by a nice warm up as they go into the group stages, and the type of win that you would associate with Celtic. I would say, Cam, outside of the performance in the Old Firm derby, and we talked about that in the aftermath of it, which I don't think was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, Angie's got to learn how to win that game, but I think it'll be a different bird when he figures out how to do it. I think that they've gotten into a rhythm. They're starting to look good, certainly in the league. Now, Kyogo missing for 7 games, that's going to be a number. What is that? That's at least 2 or 3 Champions League games, or UEFA Europa League games.
Mm-hmm.
How much we think that they can get by? They have enough squad depth right now to get by in the cup, in the league. They may have some tricky fixtures coming up, but nothing that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be able to navigate. How do you think that his absence is going to play out in terms of the Europa League?
Yeah, I think it's great that you bring that up. I think he is going to be missed for sure. With the new people that we brought in, I think he's had the largest impact so far. I believe he's still the top goal scorer so far in the Scottish Premier League. I do, however, think this is going to give the opportunity to people like Ayeti, again, who's kind of fallen near the, close to the bottom of the list of Celtic, give him an opportunity to kind of fight for that place again. And then we have this new striker, top striker in the Dutch league. I'm not even Gina Mukas. I think he's going to be given a shot here, and I think it's going to be really important to him that he comes out the gate hot. especially in terms of competition with a player like Kyogo. So I think this is an opportunity. I know we talked about this on podcasts before. When a player like this gets injured, yes, it's bad, but at the same time, looking at kind of the silver lining, it gives these other players a chance to fight for that position. It gives them something worth fighting for. So, I'm it's unfortunate that Real Betis is our next game, right, when Kyo goes out, because that's an important one. But again, I think this is going to give some of these other players the opportunity to really, really push for that spot, and to make an impact on Celtic, so that Kyogo's not the only one that's the go-to.
So yeah, you got, if he's out for 7 matches, that would include Betis and Leverkusen in the UEFA Cup, or the Europa League. But you're looking at Livingston, Wraith Rovers, Dundee United, Aberdeen, Motherwell, in the league. I'm going to be honest, and I love the Scottish Premier League and the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
I know Motherwell and Aberdeen on their day can be tricky. Livingston, Wraith Rovers, and Dundee United, I'm not expecting a whole lot from. Yeah,
I think Livingston the past few seasons has actually been quite a difficult team for Celtic. Their playing style, they do really well defensively with Celtic, and the majority of times that we played them over the past few years, it's usually a draw. So I think they're going to be following that kind of process when we play them in the coming weeks. But as you say, some of these other games are going to be good opportunities for these new players to kind of get a handle on Scottish football. Wraith Rovers, as you were saying, Aberdeen's a little more challenging. Dundee United's kind of, they're half decent so far in their start of the campaign in the Scottish Premier League. So definitely some more difficult games, but I think, as you pointed out, there's definitely going to be some games for these guys to get a leg up in the Scottish Premiership.
See, the other good news is, for all of you out there who wish to see Celtic play but have struggled to do so, they should be on Paramount Plus with the Europa League.
Yep.
And at least the games against Livingston right now, the games against Livingston and Dundee, take place at reasonable times. A miraculous 10 o'clock a.m. Sunday fixture. So Stead, we were just talking about this. I smell a double header.
Yeah, no, it's a nice treat. I'm done with those 7 a.m. wake ups, unless it's
it's like 7 a.m., 6:30.
Oh, God.
It's 10 a.m. These are actually watchable games. Who had a better debut? Ex-Celtic man Odison Edouard for Crystal Palace scoring 2 goals in 15 minutes, or the forgotten American Cameron Carter-Vickers, not only in defense in a clean sheet, but getting a goal.
Yep, I know, it's massive, insane. I mean, Odison Edouard, he looked like the player that he was when he first came to Celtic. It's the most animated I've seen him in, the past 18 months. Good for him. Good that he's putting goals away, and in the Premier League, as he's been wanting to do for a while now. But for Carter Vickers, I think that is a phenomenal start to his Celtic career. So I'm really excited. We haven't had many Americans play on the team, so it's refreshing to see someone from this side of the pond playing over in Scotland.
Stead, I'm ecstatic about this move for CCV. I know that he's going to get game time. He's going to get high-level game time. Say what you will about the Scottish League and the quality of play. I don't think it. I think people underestimate it. I think that the performances in Europe, and if that's all you see, it can lead you to believe that the quality is less than it is. I still think, sometimes the pitches are a little bit dodgy, and it looks like a NASCAR track out there. And in the winter, especially when the grass is dead, it looks like they're playing on a dirt field with one lonely blade of Scottish grass that is too doggone stubborn to actually die. Waving around in the center circle, it gets a little bit interesting. I'll tell you what, as far as it goes for playing in CONCACAF and things like that, where you have to play on dodgy pitches in front of hostile crowds, I think he's going to get, and you have to play with some players who may be a little bit more physical than you anticipate for. I think that this is going to be a great move for him. It's a chance for him to prove that the quality that he had didn't necessarily get lost, even though he didn't get the opportunities that he probably was never going to get. He made the move. Actually, I don't think he made a move. I think he came up through the youth system with Spurs, and that was how he ended up there in the first place. It was never going to work out for him there. Injuries, he's going to get some playing time. And Cam, you'll correct me. He's still a relatively young guy. I think he's only 25, 26.
Yeah, he's about 25, 26, something like that. So he's got definitely some oil left in the tank.
Here's an opportunity for him to come over and, hey, if you want to endear yourself as an American to Celtic fans as a defender, what's the best way to do it? Play good defense, make a couple of tackles, be part of a clean sheet, and score a goal while you're at it.
Phenomenal start. Yep, I think you've hit it on the head there. I think he's going to do really well. I think he's going to love, seeing, what Scottish football is about. We've talked about this before. It's always, I think it's constantly right now improving in terms of quality. Look at the number of teams that we had in Europe when when all the European competitions started. Our coefficient's rising. We now have secured a second, possible spot in the Champions League. So it's definitely an improving league for sure. And I think, as you said, I think he's really going to enjoy it. And I think he's going to do really, really well with us.
So one thing I want to get to, and this is one of the other things you brought up. Dominic McKay leaving the club after basically 30 minutes. I guess, had he even had a chance to get the butt groove into the chair and broken in his coffee mug before he quits. Like you said, personal reasons was what the official statement was. There really hasn't been a lot said by the club. The closest anybody said to saying anything was Angie saying, like, don't be under any illusions about who brought me here. Perhaps you can explain what his departure means, because you were very high on him when he came in, and what Angie's comment means, because I can't believe that the fans would be the ones looking to maybe push him out the door. I don't understand that reference and where it came from.
Yeah, so no, I mean, it is very odd. I think, again, still finding things out here, but I don't think it's a coincidence that we had such a successful transfer window around the time that he took over. From what I could tell behind the scenes, as people have been saying, that he was really kind of pushing for a lot of those transfers. However, he wasn't able to kind of make his own decisions. So I think, as I say, the fan base is I mean, they're shocked by it, but also now concerned. The guy taking over as director of football at our club is a lawyer, so business experience in that department, classic Celtic move, but someone who doesn't know what they're doing into the position. So hopefully that's a short-term appointment. But I think, I'm thankfully, it sounds bad to say, thankfully it happened after the transfer window. We were able to get that all done and dusted. So it's a very, very odd set of circumstances. Dominic McKay, obviously he was in rugby beforehand, so maybe it was that, football management, that kind of style was just not, not his thing. He wasn't used to it, or maybe it was, the board and not giving him the decisions, or, for any number of reasons. But I think it is a little bit of a concern, as I say, thankfully after the transfer window, but I'm really hoping that we can get someone who knows what they're doing into that position as soon as possible.
Amongst the names that have been bandied about and things that I have read, have been several relatives of Dermot Desmond. Can you explain who he is and why his sons may be in line to take over? Okay, so first, who is Dermot Desmond, for those who don't know? Secondly, why would his sons be in consideration to take over for Dominic McKay? And third, how would Celtic fans feel about that potential move?
Yeah, so Dermot Desmond, he's the majority shareholder of the club. So he's the big boss man. He runs everything. He's owned the club for, I mean, as far as I can remember. But there's always been. He's a very private guy. Doesn't really speak that often. But the fans are very divided between him. He is a billionaire. He has put money into the club, but over the past few years, fans have been kind of, they think that he's kind of been using the club as more of a moneymaker for himself and not actually putting enough money back into the club. So that there's concerns from fans surrounding that. In terms of his sons, that was a bit of a shock to me. I don't think they necessarily have the right kind of I wouldn't say pedigree, but again, I don't think this is an industry that they're going to be super knowledgeable about, from what I can tell. It's a little concerning that he's bringing more of his family and putting them into leadership positions in the club. Again, especially if there are some issues behind the scenes and people not being able to get their jobs done. So, I think it's early days, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dermot Desmond goes ahead and does something like this. It's not ideally what I'd want to see. I think where the club is looking for people with experience to run this position, I think it's going to be a really important position for Celtic as they continue to develop over the coming years. So personally, I want someone that's got much more experience than they have.
I got a name for you. Ernst Tanner, the current GM of the Philadelphia Union. Done a really great job with the shoestring budget. As much as I would hate to see him go, that would be an interesting proposition. The one thing we didn't touch on was, where was Angie coming from with those comments about, don't start rumors, it's something about, who brought him to the club. To me, it read like he was trying to address concerns that he may leave or be on his way out because of his ties with Dominic McKay. But was there any reason for him to have said that? Was he trying to clarify something, or was it just like he thought that he was addressing something that wasn't even out there?
Yeah, so from what I could understand from that is, in Scotland, and this is with any other team, once the rumor mill gets going, it really starts cranking things out. That's why I've kind of been trying to put a disclaimer on everything that I've seen so far. But there was the thought that, they were both close. They kind of new to the club, sort of, we're joining together and how they're going to be really changing the direction of the club. So, kind of putting two and two together, if there are things going on behind the scenes, and it is true that Dominic wasn't able to kind of get done what he needed to get done, it could be that, Angie is feeling the same way, that maybe he's going to fall into that category where he's not going to be able to do his job properly as the coach. So it was odd, I will say. It was a little hard to understand. It did take some digging to kind of come up with some theories, but as best as I can say, he's trying to quell the rumor mill, and he's saying, look, I'm here, I'm staying. It's unfortunate Dominic left, but, I'm not only here because of him. I'm here because I want to be successful in my position at this club.
So one more thing I want to get out, and Stead and I were talking about this, and Angie fits into this as well because of his position as the Australian national coach. Cameron Carter-Vickers, one of the few Americans. We've talked about the fact that Celtic is a global brand, but very often they forget that they're a global brand. We know that the board can be troublesome. Is there any way that with Angie's ties to Australia, bringing on some players from like Kyogo from Japan, Cameron Carter-Vickers, that there may be some inkling finally within Celtic that what we can do is capitalize on our globalness in a way that we have not before and monetize that, because by far they have got to be one of the most visibly visible yet underrepresented clubs worldwide.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, we saw when Kyogo was picked up by Celtic, the Celtic page in Japan, the Celtic FC kind of Twitter, I think it was, suddenly exploded in a few days with like 20,000 new followers. I think that was actually even in the first few hours. I think you're absolutely right. I don't think Celtic does capitalize enough on the depth in terms of the international players they have. It is odd. I think part of the reason, again, is sort of being able to get these games. Scottish Premiership is not the Premier League. You're not going to be able to, find it in a pub in a city necessarily. So I think, we definitely do suffer a little bit in terms of, getting ourselves on the TV, being seen throughout the world. Celtic TV is also not cheap. It's like $150, if not more, for a season. So, it doesn't make it the most accessible. I think, again, going back to this role for football development, that's again where we need someone like, as you mentioned, Tanner, that can come in, knows there's a shoestring budget, but can look for ways to increase our visibility internationally and also pull in some other revenue streams from places like Japan, Australia, China, the kind of places that you've been talking about. So I think that is going to be interesting to see if we get that kind of global reach eventually.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us and getting on and talking a little bit of Celtic, getting on and talking about the results on the field and some of the stuff going on in the background, in the back room. And we will catch up with you in a couple next week, the present week. Who knows what the what the schedule and the news holds for us. So thanks a lot, Cam, and we'll speak to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys, and love the hat, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, I wore this one specially for you today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my new one. Love it. Now, Stead, he didn't come on with a bang, but he's back. Guess who's back? Guess who's welcome back? Welcome back. Welcome back.
What's up, gentlemen? Yeah, it's been a rough fun ride so far. So yeah, life is good right now. I can't complain, but I can't, come on all the time. But it was kind of sick or kind of a a little thing here for you guys. Got to keep you on your toes a little bit here.
Well, I mean, we were happy that you made it through the hurricane. We know you got power last week, and you needed a break after going, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 40 days without power, and getting through. But we are very, 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 very happy to have you back. Stead's going to tell you that you just decided to wait until Arsenal actually won, so you didn't have to deal with all the BS that you would have gotten for a couple of weeks when they were down in the doldrums at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, being 20th is kind of rough sometimes, but glad that we're 16th now. We're moving up. So, it's just one of those things that baby steps right now, but he's definitely on a short leash and waiting to hear what the other guys think about what's going on right now, if their hopes are high or, looking forward to the schedule here. It's going to be kind of a tough little little run. They have to pull off a 4-1-1, I think, to keep his job here in the next couple games.
So, Stead G, I was sitting in my my classroom this afternoon, and it wasn't even my student. It was a 9th grader who had come back to visit. Never had him, never seen him. I'm new to the school, and he wasn't a student last year. Knocks on my door and says, "Are you a Manchester United fan?" And I said, "Well, clearly, because I have my door plate is a Manchester United logo, and then I have a big one inside of my poster in my classroom." And it says, "Yeah." Said, "Well, I just want to let you know they suck." Now, I'm always good for a little bit of banter. So he explains who he is. He was coming back to see some of his former teachers. He's a 9th grader we'd never met before. I said, "Okay, well, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm always willing to engage in a little bit of banter. Who's your team?" Looks at me and his eyes get really wide because now he knows I know what I'm talking about. "Oh, I'm an Arsenal fan." You're going to tell me you're going to tell me that my team sucks and yours is where in the table? But gentlemen, they got to win this weekend. They got to win. It wasn't the prettiest, but it was a win. I don't know, Steph. What does it even mean?
Well, I think the positive you take is Takehiro Tomiyasu looks like the real deal. That guy's a player, and he's versatile, and he's also relatively tall. At 6'2", a little bit bigger. A guy that knows how to use his body to position himself between the ball and doesn't take a whole lot of pushing around, if you understand what I'm saying, which has been a problem for Arsenal, especially at their wing back positions. That's positive. Sambi Longoko looks like that was a good move. You're looking at finally a team that's got their first choice defense in there with Ben White and Gabriel and Tierney back. I am happy to see Ramsdale play simply because, as we've discussed about the recent goings of David De Gea, Leno needs somebody to push him. And we could see how valuable Emi Martinez was, simply not necessarily by how good Emi played, but how Leno kind of didn't play as well after Emi left. So lots of positives. The starting 11 actually on paper looks like a real quality side. If you look at the team with Odegaard, Pepe, Aubameyang, Saka, that looks like a quality team. You're bringing in Smith Rowe off the bench. That's a strong squad. Ainsley Maitland-Niles still trying to find his way, but he had to play him because he wanted to go to Everton and Arteta wouldn't let him. So he had to play him. And so all I'm saying is I'm not reading too much into the tea leaves of this win. I mean, that was the flukiest goal. But sometimes when things get really, 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 really tough, you need something a little crazy to sort of burst through and get the chains off. So I think to think that this one win changes a long-term outlook that anyone would have based on the previous 3 games is short-sighted. I think the best thing to say is they're in 16th. They're no longer in a relegation battle. But I don't think they need to focus on the teams that are around them. They just need to play game by game and just go out and win some games. I think that's all they should really be focused on right now.
Well, the next team they play is Burnley. It's a team right around them, and like you said, on paper they looked phenomenal, but in reality they looked Like, how can you have that kind of offensive power and just be
Mm-hmm.
I like that Tierney was a true midfielder. He was in the right back. He was going up and down 100 yards, making these long runs where now he can be more, I guess you would say, centrally focused. He was everywhere in the midfield. So it's good to see that he was making these long runs where Tokumiyasu is a true defender. So he's not going to be taking those chances moving up. So he's going to be playing back a little bit. So
yeah, and they're going to shift. They're going to keep that 3 shift. Yeah,
and it's slowly. His plan is slowly coming to fruition right now. I look on the bench, and you have a couple of good guys who will be eventually the starters. And don't forget Xhaka's out right now. So you have a couple of guys who aren't playing right now, where it seems like the piece is maybe finally right around the corner. But again, on paper, they looked phenomenal. But again, The last couple of minutes of the game when Norwich was, really kind of picking up, trying to get that tie, it looked like Arsenal mids were slowly coming back and kind of walking back. It's like, guys, this is not the time where you get the 3 points and you hope for the 3 points and rely on your 3, defenders going against 5 or 6 guys. And they're slowly coming back there. So that's one thing they definitely need to address is, when times are tough like that, we're up by 1. We need all hands on deck, all 10 guys behind the ball, all of them guys behind the ball,
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of, there's a lot of things to work on. But again, hopefully we're right around the corner.
I think you need that ugly win after the start that Arsenal's had. You need that ugly, we have to do anything we can to make sure we don't drop any points this game. And so you gotta skin your knees on that with that type of stuff before you can truly progress. But if you look at the upcoming fixtures for the squad, they're actually not that bad. I mean, you if you really think about it, you have, let me just look at this really quickly because I just had it up.
On the 26th.
But you have Burnley, you have your Man City Cup game against Wimbledon. You got your North London derby. Okay, that's a big game. But as we saw last year, that game doesn't affect Arsenal like games against other Big Six opponents. Then you got Brighton, Crystal Palace, Villa, Leicester, Watford. You got a little stretch without playing Big Six opponents, so you have a chance to just get a few wins under your belt and make sure they can get out of the relegation battle. But like
problem with that is if they drop points,
they're going to drop points. They're going to drop points. That's why but if they can get a few wins, because in the end, it's I can't look at what they're standing in the table as right now. It's all about the development of the team and how well they play, as opposed
how much longer can the team develop? And can they develop?
No, they have to develop. You don't spend 150 million pounds on that number of players and say you get no time to develop. I mean,
no, I say they have to play, but how much longer can you see Pepe before you realize that he is what you got?
Yeah, I don't think that Pepe has reached his ceiling. I don't.
Can Arteta get him there?
That's two different issues. I'm discussing trying to get some wins, trying to win some games, and letting the squad develop. I said nothing about him being the person to do it. As you notice, I left that completely out, and I did that intentionally. I have not placed any additional expectation on Arteta after a 1-0 win against a team that's, Chelsea Mike likes to say, loves being in 20th or 21st place. So it's Arteta has, I think his position on the hot seat has not shifted one bit.
Because it was like you said, both of you, it was not a convincing win. And yet again, we've seen him probably with his 5th different formation and 17th different starting lineup in 4 games. We still don't know after over a season, does he know what his best formation and best starting 11 is?
I think he is starting to get a sense of his best formation, and it is definitely not the 3-5-2-1. That's not it.
But I guarantee you.
But that doesn't mean he's not going to go back to that wheelhouse and use it again. That's the problem. And that's the problem. The formation that was used against Norwich, I think, is Arsenal's best formation, simply because of the versatility of Kieran Tierney and the fact that your right back is also a center back and can shift in if you wanted to play a 3-back set. It gives you that type of options where you can do that without having to sub. I don't trust Arteta, though, to say this is the best lineup. We need to get a little bit more consistency, because I do think he's getting close to who his best 11 are, or at least his best 14 are. But outside of that, again, I don't want Arteta to think that he just needs to get the right players to fit his system, and that all of a sudden will make him a good coach.
Because I believe personally that this is a game, and I know squad rotation, and I understand the idea of you pick the players to win the game, right? Sir Alex Ferguson was famous for picking the players to win the game. He picked the players for the opponent more so than the occasion. But there were certain names, there were certain ways that he was going to play. There were certain things that were always going to be on the team sheet. You knew if it was a big game in, 08, 09, you were going to have Evra, Vidic, and Ferdinand with Van der Sar starting. You knew Scholes was going to be in the midfield. Rooney and Ronaldo were going to play. He might play with 1 or 2 pieces, but you knew who was going to start. You had a pretty good idea with the team sheet. And even if he did select a different lineup, he knew what he wanted to do. I feel like still at this point, Arteta is bouncing from idea to idea, trying to figure out what works after, we're coming up on, what is it, 20 months in charge, almost. So almost 2 full calendar years, almost 2 seasons. And he's still bound. And it's not like he chooses it for the game. He'll go with 3 backs until he loses a couple of games. Then he'll switch to he'll go with 3 center backs, then he'll switch to a back 4. Okay, then they'll lose another couple of games. We'll get on him, and then he'll switch to a 3. Maybe that gives him a bounce. Has he settled enough after all of this time on a setup right now. So I see him going right now with a double pivot, right? A 4-2-3-1 system. In the times that I've seen him play all sorts of different ones. The double pivot is new. Does this suit him, or is he still throwing stuff up against the board, hoping something sticks?
Take it, G.
Well, I like the 4 in the back because we saw the last couple of years the 3 with David Luiz wasn't working. So.
Yeah, but when you won the FA Cup, you played with 3 at the back. When he came in and he needed to stop that slide to keep them in Europe and get through in that first season, and everybody was talking about how poor the defense was, and we were sitting around here lambasting him after COVID because the defense was awful and they were shipping goals and they couldn't hold water in a bucket. He switched to 3 at the back. That got him through. They won now I know personnel has changed.
Brand new team, it looks like on paper. A lot of the first 2 years ago, what you see right now is completely different. The players are gone now.
So then so is this a case of a manager being good and looking at his players and saying, okay, I need to do this? Or is he just trying to make something stick and hope?
Both. He likes these players in other teams that, hey, I like him. We need him. That's, like Pepe, when is he going to start kind of playing right now? And that was one of his, big purchases. I went for any time for him to explode, but it looks like he's capped out right now under Arteta.
I'm not going to lie.
Tactically,
wait, G, I do want to give him credit. One thing real quick. Pepe was not an Arteta purchase. Pepe was an Unai Emery purchase. I don't want to blame that because I have said that one of the things that the Arsenal manager has had to figure out that nobody has successfully figured out, and I don't know if anybody can, is how to play Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang all in the same lineup.
Well, okay. The fact that we're still asking that question is basically you're answering your own question about Arteta. Arteta is definitely throwing things against the wall and trying to see what sticks. I think that's blatantly evident. But the fact that he switches to a more conventional, workable lineup when his back is against the wall, and then once he gets a little bit of space, he seems to go back to what he thinks is going to work and it doesn't, leads you to believe that he is he coaching it for, is he trying to show tactically what he's capable of, or is he trying to basically keep his job for as long as possible? And, I said last season when they were trying to play out the back after the 5th game of not working, like, this isn't working. You have to try and do something else. And then they tried to do something else. And don't forget, in the calendar year for the last Premier League season, Arsenal played very well. They actually were 3rd in points. So what is the difference? What is the change? Which often means that there is basically a formula for what he's going to do. And as soon as you know what he's going to do, then you can plan for it that way. But hopefully at some point, the team will either understand what it is they're supposed to do and follow along tactically, or Arteta is going to be out and we'll be back in a situation where we're trying to see why won't Allegri take the job or some other big name coach, and they're going to be like, I don't want to go to Arsenal. So that's why you've yet to hear me say Arteta out. You haven't heard me say it yet because I am too nervous about what the alternative is.
But I mean, lack of alternatives is not necessarily a reason to keep a.
Okay, lack of alternatives is a reason to try and maintain a little bit longer until you actually have a plan. Because if that's not the situation, then go bring in Big Sam.
Look, anybody can walk through hell because even though it's hot, because you have directions, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to get you back to where you need to go.
Okay.
Wait, did they literally just switch shirts? This is scaring me. Oh, okay.
It was a great
well,
week.
I'm removing Jay from the Arsenal chat for doing that.
Look, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
But Mike, the analogy you gave, yeah, I mean, but you could. That's possible, but still, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not waiting for the Arsenal job.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer,
it's very difficult. It's very difficult to equate those two things when you look at who is available for specific positions when you see that right now Arsenal is utterless. So unless you want to make a splash and media splash, go get Eddie Howe.
I question, like, you talked about the young players, and to take the Arsenal job or to be the Arsenal manager, you really have to look at some of these guys and say, I really, really want to work with them.
Absolutely.
I want to see what I can do for Bukayo Saka.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work with Emil Smith
with ESR. And
I question whether there is enough there to entice somebody in there. I question whether, I think we've agreed that we now, after all this time, have doubts over whether or not Arteta can effectively bring these players forward to make them the best versions of themselves, right? And it's fair. Like, it's fair. I'll talk to Matt in a second and question whether or not, Ole has always consistently gotten the best out of the players that he has, in terms of, like, how has he positively influenced the development of a player like Tony Martial, right? You're a striker. Why can this guy still not put the ball into the net consistently? And there are questions about whether when it's the coach, when it's the player. I just wonder if you're looking at that team and saying, like, there is enough there in the cupboard to make me want to go there and take that job, that responsibility. Whether I think I can get, all coaches have a little bit of hubris. They all think that they can do better than the other guy. But is there enough there? Or, do you have to?
Once you go to the bench, the talent falls off. Like, you don't have a lot of reserves to kind of come on to kind of bring the team up where you kind of need to be, or they come in like the Giroud who would come off the bench at the 68th minute, knowing that he's going to score for Chelsea. Like, we don't really have those kind of guys anymore, and, like, there's not really any enticement unless you have those 11 starters.
I think my bigger issue is, like, I believe that Bukayo Saka is going to be a good player. I think Emil Smith Rowe is going to be a good player. I think that Pepe is who Pepe is at this point in his career. I'm not 100% sure that you're going to get a lot more out of him than you already have, right? And you're saying, like, okay, Mikel Arteta's not necessarily the guy to help him reach a ceiling. Potential is great. Promise is great. But how many players have we seen leave talent and promise and potential unfilled?
Well, then what's the point of bringing this up then? I mean, we have to hang on to something. I mean, look, it's you're taking my statement and you're putting it over here. Okay, that's fine. But what is it you're asking? Is, should Arteta stay or should he go? Is that what you're asking? Or is it just simply, are we putting faith in Pepe when we shouldn't be? Okay,
so I got off on a little bit of tangent. Okay, Arteta, you said Arteta could stay. Do you believe, question, do you believe that there is anybody else who could do a better job with these guys?
Yes.
All right. Do you believe that person would look at that team and want that job?
Just based on the squad of players? Yes.
Do you believe that talent can be improved, or are there players who we just know who they are and that's what they're going to be?
I think there's talent that can be improved.
Okay.
I think it's inconsistent in their performance, but I think there's talent that can be improved. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. You would hope, though, that there was another first team coach that's involved, or another not manager, but just someone else who's involved to assist in Arteta. But the problem is clearly Arteta. But my anxiety leads into, okay, can Arsenal do this, dump a coach, pay for him, and bring in another one over and over and over again when you have an ownership group that doesn't like soccer?
So now you end in the endless downward spiral. to mediocrity. And
Yes.
I guess that's the most painful thing, is to watch a team.
Yes.
Now it's painful. It's painful to watch it from this perspective. It's especially painful, I know, when you're in it.
Mm.
So,
So hopefully it's not over for good, but to say that the dark days are slowly behind us is far-fetched. We're still on the wrong side of the mountain here.
now I've got to address the elephant in the room.
Those are some beautiful matching shirts, by the way.
There are some beautiful matching shirts. I want to know, like, what all communication, what all effort, and how much was spent to pull this gag off.
Do you want to tell him? I mean, honestly, this is all G, man. This is literally, G was like, "What's your shirt size?" And then I opened the door one day and I had a package, and this is it. So. That's called commitment to the bit.
Right. I love the amount of commitment that goes into pulling off these bits. All right, from the Schalke coaching staff, now we have Coach Speak Corner, where two guys talk about coaching a team that they don't actually coach, and probably talk about a whole bunch of things that they actually have no clue about. And had Brian Robb not said that
Brian Robb knows. He's chatting away. He knows right now. We're only 3 points out of first.
Yeah, but would you have known that they were only 3 points out of first?
Absolutely. Toto Rota is our top scorer. He's got 7 goals in 6 games. He's 33 years old. He's absolutely killing it. He's making our decision of moving Hapa to Mallorca very good. We just beat Paderborn yesterday, and they had a chance to go top. So we're doing great, guys. We're climbing the ladder. Coach, take it away, man.
I hate when you call it Simon Simone, kind of like underneath the skin, but the communication and the chemistry you guys have, Matt, with the forwards, it really shows with your 16 shots on goal. You guys, it's just unbelievable. And on the defensive side, we got 5 offense, on Paderborn. So like we're shutting them down. Right now we're linking up. We're only 3 points behind. So yeah, things are good right now. We play Karlsruhe, on this coming up Friday on my birthday. So hopefully we'll get a little 3-point victory and push to the top. So yeah, Schalke's looking good right now.
Yeah. And just like Jose, like we're gonna approach it like a regular game, but let's be honest, if we can get a 90th minute winner, we're gonna celebrate, So yeah. So yeah, really, really happy about it. And just keep plugging away. 2 Bundesliga, and we're gonna go up to the top division soon enough. We're gonna be back. Trust us.
Sure. Yep.
So do you remember what city Schalke plays in?
Yeah. Well, they're in Gelsenkirchen, but yeah. So
all right.
Yeah, we know. We're there. We're remote. Right. You don't even know.
Remotely coaching. This is a new thing. Coaching via Zoom. Or are you guys actually catching a flight over there every weekend?
We can't really disclose that right now for COVID reasons. We're not allowed to. We have a couple of deals that are over there.
Well, they're in there with some good team. Werder Bremen.
Paderborn's doing well right now.
Fortuna Dusseldorf.
Yeah.
Hanover 96 was always a favorite of mine.
St. Pauli's doing great. Also too, the great thing about that we did is also we were able to balance the books. We have 25 outs and we've just completely balanced them. So that's just the key to success as well, So something that like an Arsenal owner would be happy about, balancing everything.
So and you're in the DFP Pokal in the second round against 1860 Munich coming up at the end of October. So we'll definitely have to get your views on that if they play the other half. And they have to travel to the Allianz and the other half of Munich for this game. So we'll definitely have to get you back to preview that game before the end of the before that game. All right. So, we want to thank you. I know you might hang around. We want to thank you for coming on and talking a little bit of Schalke. And yes, I knew this was coming. Schalke and Arsenal, but Matt had to change clothes.
We got to get some more gear, brother.
That had to be hot. That had to be hot.
It's actually a very breathable shirt. But it's good. No, it's good. It's a good time.
Viva Ronaldo, Viva Ronaldo.
He's back, man. He's back. He's literally on my back. But yeah, no, it's great, dude. Oh my gosh. How happy are you? You got to be thrilled, man.
It was a good game. We had a fantastic turnout. I think the best part was about halftime when at the pub they told me if I could get 10 people in for the game, I could turn on terrestrial sound so I didn't have to listen to it on a 12-second delay on my Bluetooth speaker. And we got the 10th person in at halftime, so we were able to get sound.
That's fantastic.
It was great watching, the excitement around the game, and then to hear Cristiano Ronaldo in the interviews talk about how nervous he was prior to the game, pre-game. You recognize that despite the perception of Cristiano Ronaldo, the complaining to the refs, the diving, the celebrations, the sort of the self-aggrandizement, the look at me, look at me, look at me. At his heart, he really is a guy who works very, very hard at his game. He keeps himself in phenomenal shape, and he is somebody who has a very keen appreciation and devotion to Manchester United. He understands what the club is, and he understands his role in it. The fact that he would say, like, no, this is something. I am nervous. I am anxious. Even in his position, as many games as he has played, he did it because it meant something to him. Like, to be at Old Trafford after 18 years meant something to him, to go out there. And then I thought he did well. I thought you saw the best of Cristiano Ronaldo. You also saw where, he's going to steal the ball off of Jadon Sancho, dribble in and try and get a shot off of himself, right? So, there are those issues, but certainly the first goal was, Johnny on the spot. He capitalizes on a rebound, knocks it in right before halftime. Cristiano Ronaldo's goal, and then it's away from there, and you can see what I would say that he was a major contributor to the fact that this was a 4-1 victory in a game last year that probably would have been 2-1 or 1-1.
Yeah, and we would have gone down first. Like, I mean, that's just what's been happening too with Newcastle really randomly. We go down to them. Also, too, I mean, just a lot of people like to think that, oh, that was just a tap in goal, Johnny on the spot. But watching the replay of that, it's also just being in that spot and just knowing he's the only person that takes off after that. As soon as that shot is hit by Mason, he's of the whole defense as well. He's the only person to react and say, hey, this could actually bobble. Even, and even just as our own teammates were just they weren't even on the same page of that. And so that's just stuff that hopefully he brings. We talked about it too with Cavani and Greenwood. Like, hopefully that Ronaldo can actually prove to be someone that comes in and helps develop our younger, talented players. I'm really excited to see what kind of a front line with, him, Rashford, Sancho, Greenwood, somehow we got to fit them all in. But just throughout the course of the season, just how their games are affected. It'll be interesting too about Greenwood, because he definitely was gearing up, and you could tell he was really happy that he was the number 9 for the first 3 games. And he proved, honestly, if I'm him, I understand it's Ronaldo, so I take a step back, but I am, if I'm being honest, I feel like he's probably a little disappointed that he's not the 9, because I think that he really wants that position. And maybe I was just misreading his body language during the game, but he really, he worked hard and stuff, but he wasn't the same as the first 3 games. But maybe, again, everyone was probably kind of nervous. It's like it's a big game. Like, the stadium was rocking. I mean, I don't know how many times Peter Drury and Jim Beglin said, this is the craziest this stadium has been since, the title winning years. And even during that. So, it'll be, I'm really excited to see how it's all going to plan out. It's just a different role for Ronaldo as well, and I think he recognizes that. And I think you brought up Ole a little bit earlier. It's going to be really interesting. Someone kind of brought up, I don't know if it was Ornstein or someone else in the Times, basically said, if Ronaldo goes 4 games without a goal, does he bench him? Like, does he have the ability, and he said that he would, but it's, saying one thing and then doing it is another thing. So yeah, just I'm happy, but there's some cautious optimism with the whole thing.
There's certainly going to be a lot of, not every team in the league is going to field 7 at the back like Newcastle did, who is just, now that Arsenal has finally won a game, we can talk about the Newcastles, the Norwiches of the league, who are just like really down there and struggling. Steve Bruce was like, yeah, I just don't want to get tonked, and then he got beat. There's going to be some issues about how you play them all, how you rotate the squad. Cristiano Ronaldo is 36. He can't play week in, week out. And, I know he's in phenomenal shape, but how do you rotate him? How do you bring him off? Do you bring him off? Well, clearly they brought him off this time, but, at what point do you bring him off? How do you rotate him around? The interplay between him and Bruno Fernandes for the Portuguese team was actually a problem. I thought that was a negative for the Portuguese national team. I really expected more from those two than I got during the year.
There's also just a weird dynamic with the Portuguese team too, because it is obviously Ronaldo is always going to be the focal point, but the one thing too with Bruno, he's just told straight up, and then it comes down, I think, a little bit to the tactics of or the lack of tactics with Ole sometimes of relying on just individual brilliance. We know that we'll take 20 misplaced passes by Bruno if he just finds like 3 unbelievable over the top balls or through balls. Like, we'll take that all day. And I think Ole just gives him confidence or the freedom to do that. I think with Portugal, it's a little bit different. I think he is under a much different system, and I think he's told to perform a specific way. He's also more out on the right a lot more, even though he's a center midfielder. He doesn't have the ability to roam as much, because they do play in a 4-3-3, and it's just a little bit different with Bernardo Silva there. Ronaldo's there. He's there. I do watch Portugal a lot. Like, that's kind of my big international team, and that is the struggle. Is this team? I think it's honestly their coach, but I agree. I didn't really see that with United yesterday, and it was something, or a couple of days ago. It was something that I was worried about. Was that how are Bruno and Ronaldo gonna be with one another? And even just the goal celebrations and everything, like, they were both pumped up for each other. They're super supportive of each other. They're clearly friends, because apparently Bruno called him up when rumors were talking about Ronaldo going to City. So I think they'll be fine. I think the real question mark, and I'd love your take on it too, is Pogba. Like, yeah, he got 2 more assists, but Ole in a press conference today kind of joked, was like, what really counts as an assist today? Like a square ball to Bruno, who hits it like upper 90, counts as an assist. Whereas like David De Gea just launches that goal, like that punt, all the way up to Mason, and just really doesn't get anything for that. But so yeah, he had the assists, but at the same time, I don't think our midfield looked that secure. Our goal was kind of on a counter that was, we got broken down a couple of times, and I do worry about Pogba in that double pivot. He was playing so much better in that wide left for us in the beginning of the year this year, and yeah, just your thoughts, I guess. It is really concerning to me. We need someone to plug into that hole.
I think the lineup that he has does not suit itself towards a double pivot. And the sooner that he realizes that what he really needs is to go to the 4-3-3, to play Pogba as a more typical box-to-box midfielder, let Bruno play a little bit more advanced, even though Bruno can play defensively. It is not like Bruno has to play it as a straight-up, more forward attacking midfielder, right? He can drop back. He does have defensive qualities, and he demonstrates it. The double pivot has become a bit of Linus's blankie to Oleg.
Yeah, that's a
does not
great
feel
analogy.
like he does not feel like he can
Fantastic.
go out in public without a double pivot.
Yeah,
The problem is he doesn't have them right now. The fact that he would shove Matic and Pogba into that role, Matic can't play defensive midfielder or holding midfielder on his own because he just doesn't have the mobility at this point in time. But you have so many other options to play a fourth. If you played a 4-3-3, a 4-1, a 4-2-3, a 4, like a 4-1-4-1. It'd probably be more of a 4-3-3 because our forwards will play beyond the ball as opposed to behind it. If you played with that and played with like a McTominay, or even if you let Fred do that, you backed him up with Pogba playing a little bit more advanced, or Bruno, or even, and this is revolutionary.
I think I know where you're going. I'm gonna go ahead.
Even if you just played a 4-3-3 without a holding midfielder and had the nerve, the unmitigated tactical gall to go with Donny van der Beek.
I knew it. No.
And Paul Pogba in the same midfield, and trusted your defense to actually, I don't know, defend.
Yeah. It's infuriating because we just need like that Casemiro Conte type player.
They had the opportunity to get it.
Yeah. And they just didn't.
Right.
I also think though too, I was thinking about this as well, because we were sharing stats about Tchouaméni and Rice, who obviously is too expensive, especially in this window now, or was. And I don't think Ole is gonna, or even Camavinga. Like, I just don't think he's like, you're never gonna trust like an 18-year-old kid to just run that position. Like you never would, like, because that kid is just gonna get eaten alive. And it doesn't matter if you have Varane and Maguire in behind him. Like unfortunately, you need like a Rice, or you need a Casemiro, you need someone who's like disciplined in that.
They could have had Saul. And
did you see Saul? Oh man, he was so bad for Chelsea. I think it's a bullet dodge, man. Oh god, he was awful.
I would have said differently, but remember Chelsea also won 3-0. So how much complaining can we really do? I think it's going to be interesting. I still think that essentially Cristiano Ronaldo is going to give you 20 goals this season. I don't know how that is going to affect other people's numbers. I do believe he's going to elevate the performance of people around him. Like if he's working on the training pitch with Tony Martial, I have to believe that Tony Martial is going to get better in ways that he hasn't been. I have to believe that he's positive. Working with him is positively going to impact Mason Greenwood's development, as with Marcus Rashford when he gets back healthy. I know that he has a pretty good relationship with Bruno and a pretty good relationship with Edinson Cavani, where they'll be able to figure, he and Cavani are both veterans. I have to believe that they're going to figure out how to coexist with each other. And the ego is not there for them to be like competitors. I think the biggest problem now is there is nowhere left for anybody, coaching staff included, to hide.
Yeah, I agree.
If I am now more convinced than ever, if Ole doesn't bring home a trophy, having been to multiple semifinals and a final last year, if he doesn't bring home a trophy, if he's not in the Champions League, if they don't advance into the knockout stages of the Champions League, and by into, I mean into at least the quarterfinals, right? I can forgive a quarterfinal loss. There are teams out there that are better. If you come up against PSG, if you come up against Bayern, if you come up against some of these teams, it's forgivable to lose to them. But if you go out to Villarreal or somebody like that at the round of 16, and you come home, and the best thing that you can say is that we semifinal in the Man City Cup and finish fourth. That's not good enough, right?
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo signed a 2-year contract before he leaves, or before they have to re-sign him in 2 years. They need to come home with a trophy, and there is no longer any place to hide for any of them, and I think the biggest difference in between this and any games that have happened in the last couple of years, I'm not going to say in the last 18, not since he left the first time. We've had good teams. We've had, look, we went to a Champions League final without him. We won league titles without him. This is one of the few times that I've felt going into a game since Sir Alex Ferguson left that we expect to win.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah.
I no longer hope. I no longer think. I don't hope we can win a game. I don't think we can compete. I don't feel like, hey, maybe if things bounce right, we can finish in the top 4. I expect that we will be there. Now, how that fits in with, Liverpool look good. Larry, the insurance guy, in a couple of minutes is going to tell me how great Man City is. Right? I love them to death, but I expect us to finish top 4. I expect us to compete. I think that we have the lineup and the personnel to do it.
Yeah, I definitely felt like going into this season, especially, rivals coming up, but we had high expectations, but I felt like in the back of my mind where, I would say like we have to win, FA Cup, and we need to be competing to the title like up until the last couple of weeks. I did also have in the back of my mind, like, well, kind of just an excuse of, well, kind of like we get a bad draw or something like here and there. I don't think there's that, like you said, there's not that excuse anymore. And it's not just because Ronaldo instantly makes our team better, but there's just an expectation now. We're so loaded on offense. Our back line is it's so solid. It's solid enough where, yes, I know that we're weak in the defensive midfielder section, but I think there are workarounds and there's things that we can do. I think there's people that we can plug in and rotate every game to actually get us to a point where, this team should be good enough. And I think there's players too that it's, like Fred, like McTominay, it's like we've set it up so that you can succeed. And if you don't do that, like then you've got to go out, because there's no excuse. Your back line is amazing. Your forwards and your like off attacking midfielders are world class. Like there's just no excuse. Like you have one job, and just make sure you clean it up and don't make mistakes and win the ball back for us. And if they can just be that guy, I have no doubt in my mind that we'll win at least one trophy this year. And if we don't, then I think it's a failure, and I think we have to start looking at Ole, being replaced.
So I've got to do something that I hate to do. It pains me. I've got to talk to the guy on the other side of Manchester. Hey, Larry, how's it going?
What's going on, gentlemen? Sorry, I wanted to get on earlier, but life got in the way.
That happens. Another weekend, another victory, 1-0 over Leicester. Could have been more. I don't know. What do you say?
Could have been more, and I think they kind of got lucky on the on the Vardy call. That was I kind of thought with the new rules that was questionable. I mean, obviously I'll take it as a fan, but at the same time it was Leicester's a good side. Schmeichel's world class. I mean, he had 3 or 4 really good saves. I don't know, just kind of once again they kind of show their depth. I mean, I thought that Mahrez has been in form, and he hasn't seen the field the last 2 games. Or maybe he might have gotten in. Actually, I think he got in later against Arsenal. But I mean, he just keeps plugging and playing players. I kind of just catching on what you were saying there. I really think this year with the additions to Man U and Chelsea, I really think I have no idea how it's going to end. It really comes down to who's going to win the games that they should absolutely win, and who's going to drop points to the teams that they shouldn't be, or drop points to the teams that they really shouldn't be. You know what I mean? To the lower half of the table. Really, anybody outside the top six, any of these guys drop points, and it's really going to come down to the end. As to the lack of goals, yeah, I mean it is concerning. I think that I hate to say, but like, how do you tell professional soccer players or football players to start putting the ball more on net? They've got 25 attempts and 6 on net. So it can be frustrating. They're always looking for that perfect last pass to make it an easy tap in, but their defense is, I
never thought I would do this stuff, Larry. Actually defend Man City. You have a couple of games where you go 1-0, lose 1-0, lose 1-0, where you don't score. And then prior to this, the last 2 games have both been 5-0 wins.
Yeah, look at the teams they were doing them against. And no offense to Stead over there, who's finally getting a chance to wear his jersey, I see.
But you haven't been on. I'm wearing this every week since they've been bottom table. I've worn this every week.
Oh, have you? Oh, all right. Okay.
No, it wasn't something they picked up, but I also think, they're going to need, like you said, they're going to need to grind out results, get the offense. We will see if they need a true number 9 or if this can work.
Do they need one? Absolutely. I mean, do they need one I think if they had signed, one of the big top 9s, I would be much more comfortable saying it's City's season to lose. But because they didn't, they are going to have to grind out. They seem to find a way to do that. I wouldn't say it's a lost cause because of how strong their I mean, the times that they've lost, you said it's been 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Well, that kind of shows that their defense is pretty damn good now too. So Laporte seems to have found his form again. Pep's got trust in him. I mean, I thought it was a done deal that he was basically gone. He wanted out, with Stones playing the way he was. And, now it's kind of Stones is the odd man out, which I don't really know how. I'm not saying I'm upset with it, but I don't know how that happens considering how him and Diaz have been playing together. So, it's going to be an interesting season, man. It's not the kind of season your heart wants to have to go through, like the stress levels, the blood pressure's up every single week. But, whenever the season's over, we can all look at it and most likely be like, damn, that was a good season. I love last season because they pulled away at the end, but it won't be a memorable season as like, oh, remember whenever they beat Liverpool by 99 to 98 points. Like it's not
going to be that type of party. So this week you have, I want to bring on Byron Robb because we were talking about this and you guys have a team that I want to talk to him a little bit about in RB Leipzig. So, oh yes, with the matching hat. Stead.
Looking fresh, looking real fresh.
Stead.
Yes, sir.
When did costumes become a requirement to come on this podcast?
I'm the one who's slacking, man. I've been on every single.
I'm wearing
jerseys.
I'm wearing a T-shirt that I grabbed out of the bottom drawer. Now I've got, Matt and G coordinating outfits, and then Matt showing up with a jersey under the jersey, and now this guy who I don't know. Are you climbing the Rockies or are you a fisherman?
Hey, look, I'm just hanging out at the beach, enjoying the cruise light. That's all I'm doing.
So, Rob, okay. Bayern goes to Leipzig and wins and scores 4 goals. Can we can get over the Julian Nagelsmann is struggling at Bayern. They've gotten off to a pretty good start. The question I have is, what is going on with RB Leipzig, who sit 12th in the table? Jesse Marsch not off to the best start. They've got Larry's Man City team on in the Champions League. Where's this going for the American coach?
The biggest problem is that, and this was a great matchup because you saw two different ways of taking a team when you're the brand new manager. So on the Bayern side, Nagelsmann has a certain way of playing, but he's not ripping up the Hansi Flick playbook. He's pretty much adding chapters to it, and he has said that it's going to take him several months for this team to be his team. They're still running a lot of the same Hansi Flick type of offense and defense, but Nagelsmann just shoring up the defense. Jesse Marsch, on the other hand, he's not really doing that. He's pretty much reverting back to the RB Leipzig way of playing with the high pressing, kind of chaotic pressing that they used to have under Ralf Rangnick, and that they stepped away from a little bit under Julian Nagelsmann. So the biggest problem is that there's players out there who really don't know what they're supposed to be doing because they're so used to the Nagelsmann system. And if you watch the match, the greatest example of this was when Jesse Marsch wrote a note and it was passed around. It was almost like a school note. I was waiting for someone to turn into a football and flick it somewhere. And at one point, Forsberg got the note and he looked at it and he scratched his head, almost like he was confused what to do. So it also didn't help the fact that Tyler Adams, who's the only player on the squad to know how Jesse Marsch plays, other than potentially Sabazai, was not playing because he played 270 minutes. He played all 90 minutes in the 3 USA qualifier matchups for the World Cup. So they're just a little bit of a flux here. They had a couple tough matchups, Wolfsburg being one of them early in the season, and obviously Bayern as well. Their next matchup is against Cologne, so they should have a nice run of form. They need really to start winning. But for those of you who are scared that an USA manager is going to get the sack early, I don't think it's going to happen here. I think it's going to. They trust him. He's been in the system before. This is not a Bob Bradley situation. So those fans who are Jesse Marsch fans, be patient. I think they'll be fine. It's going to take a little bit to implement the system. And also, they've lost a lot of players, and they haven't really replaced them. They lost to 2 center backs, Konate and Upamecano. They just lost Sabitzer to Bayern, and they have not had time to replace him. So it's just they're a little bit of flux here, and I think they'll be fine. If by January they're not in the top 5 or 6 spots, then you potentially start to worry, but not yet.
Better accessory to go with the jerseys this year: the bucket cap for the Bayern Munich Course Mountain jersey, or the shoes that go with the Ajax 3 Little Birds jersey.
That's a great
what? It's a great question because I love the bucket hat. The only problem I have with it is that they only came out toward the end of the summer, so I have not had enough beach days to use it or pool days to use it. But the Sambas with the IX Little Birds is my favorite accessory to a kit this year. It's just lovely. It matches perfectly with everything. I love it. I love it, and you guys can find one. Go get one. They're comfortable and they look great.
Except for the fact that when I got them, it tore up my ankle, but I do love them.
Yeah.
Larry, expectations for Man City and Leipzig in the Champions League this midweek?
I think City wins at home, and then I'm going to say 2-0. Again, kind of like what Byron Robb over here is saying. I don't think Leipzig's really hit their stride yet. They're still in a transition. I don't expect them to be, I don't expect them to be at this position towards the end of the season. However, I think Champions League for them is going to be a quick group stage and out. I mean, these are 2 wins that City, if they can win back-to-back, home and home against Leipzig, it really helps with the pressure, with PSG in the group. If they drop one, it makes things a lot more interesting. I mean, but I do see them winning at least this game, with KDB coming back, or, I mean, I don't know how much he'll play or if he'll play, but it was very, very inspiring seeing him and Foden on the bench, at least there for the game against Leicester if needed. I was happy to see they weren't needed, but I do see them beating Leipzig on Wednesday.
Rob, give me a rundown of your expectations for the German teams in the Champions League this midweek.
I think Bayern's going to definitely walk all over Barcelona. I mean, Serginho Dest is hurt, and so I think he's one of their starting right backs. He mostly starts, but not all the time. But he's hurt, so he's not coming. He won't be available. Bayern just has too much firepower, and they know they can take on Barcelona. Ronald Koeman's talking the talk, and he wants to say he's going to make it to his team. They just don't have the players to do it. I mean, especially now they don't have Messi, So it's I see that as an easy victory for Bayern. They should walk away with 3 points here. Wolfsburg, on the other hand, they lead the table in the Bundesliga, but they really have not had anybody really to play yet. So they beat Leipzig in transition. And that's really about it. They beat Hertha Berlin, which will teeter on relegation. So they've not been challenged, and it's going to. I don't know if they have the depth to play Champions League in a level where they can advance out of the group. I mean, they can, but I just don't expect them, and I don't think they really expect it either. Dortmund, on the other hand, as far as the Champions League go, I think they will advance. I think that they might even win the group. Erling Haaland is just a monster, and he's only getting better. If you watch the game versus Leverkusen on Friday, it was beautiful football by all. He scored a penalty, and he scored a wonderful header. Erling Haaland is just a special player. I mean, he's fast, he's quick. He's lethal, and now he's added heading to his game. So that is fully. I think they expect to make it out of the group as the table leaders, and then Leipzig. I think they're taking it straight to Europa League. They're no match for City and Chelsea. So when they play City, Tyler Adams will play. He'll probably man mark the attacking midfielder for City, and that's really about it. Angelino's going to get pinned back, so he's not going to be able to really go up the flanks and contribute on crosses and whatnot. And I don't think Andre Silva will have much service either. I think City win it handily. So yeah, I forget if I don't know if I'm forgetting somebody in the Champions League group stage on the German side.
No, yeah, I think you got them all. Stead,
Yeah.
I'm wondering what I have done to fail to accessorize. Rob shows up with the hat. G and Matt coordinate outfits, and now we've got London Sean with the cat. Oh, it's London Sean making his triumphant return after trips all over all of the UK. How goes it, my good friend?
It goes very well, thank you. Obviously, I hibernated for the month of August. I got myself out on the 1st of September. So, yeah, it's been good. Life has been good since Saturday. Well, in fact, yeah, since Saturday. Yeah.
I know it's been rough for you. We've had to deal with, just the end of the English summer, such as it is. England dropping the cricket to the okay. Arsenal but Exeter's doing all right.
Exeter is doing bloody well. We had a very good away win the other day. In fact, it's Arsenal's. I think I was 2 years old the last time we had this sort of start to the season. So I didn't really want to be reminded at my very tender age if I'm not telling you. But yes, it was terrible. But I don't know what Stead had to say earlier, but I did manage to catch the game on Saturday, and it's looking a lot better. But as long as we can catch up Spurs, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm. But you did win. You did win 300 quid on a parlay bet.
I certainly did. Yes, that was this evening.
so life is good. So we're talking to we're talking a little bit of German football with Byron Robb, who's giving us the lowdown on this. My last question for you, Rob, was Stead and I were talking about this earlier. We know that RB Leipzig is like the most hated team in all of Germany because of the corporate ownership, the East German heritage. If you can get over that outside of Germany, right? They haven't come in and necessarily bought themselves good. They bought themselves up to the Bundesliga, but when in terms of teams with the financial resources that Leipzig had, they probably actually a little bit underperformed. They've used their system to give opportunities that, especially here in the United States, to Tyler Adams, to Jesse Marsh. Could you make a case for American fans softening on, I know it's hard for you as a Bayern fan, but could you make a case for American fans softening on RB Leipzig and maybe giving them a shot and opening up our hearts to the little energy drink that could?
Well, they're the type of person that plays FIFA. There's a bunch of people, but there's people who play Ultimate Team, and there's people who play career mode. And people who love career mode love like the scouting, bringing in young people, and myself included as well, right? I view it as a challenge, right? So if you're one of those people, you want to root for a team that plays in Champions League and will compete in the top division in their country, then Leipzig's for you, because you can see the flow between talent scouting and then them rising up, and then either in Brazil, in Salzburg, or in New York Red Bulls, which is actually my team, because they're my local team, my local MLS team. And then they all go through Leipzig because Leipzig, has has an opportunity for a guaranteed Champions League spot in the group stage because they're in Germany based on the coefficients. So if you like that, if you like seeing the growth of a player moving on and then getting better and then potentially being sold and then being replaced by another player from the system, then you like Leipzig. You like it. And especially you like the energy drink too, because there are some people who don't like Monster, but they love Red Bull. They're a team for you. Just on that. But that goes, that means you have to ignore everything else about what Leipzig have done. As far as, basically flaunted the 50+1 rule, have a high membership fee as well, have, where they took over the license of a team and then just threw money at it and disregarded the history of that team. So yeah, I mean, if you can look past all that, then Leipzig's for you, if you're one of those career mode folks. But other than that, no.
10-1, Larry's going to become a Leipzig fan tomorrow.
Wait, let me unmute myself here. I was just thinking I should start rooting for them. I mean, that's kind of how I started liking City.
Yeah. I was figuring 10-1, you're going to become, when I see you next time, you're going to have on a Leipzig jersey just to mess
I'm ordering my jersey as we speak right now.
Yes.
Order the third kid, because apparently the third kid is really popular. It's really getting a lot of headlines.
Yeah, this kid, the other one looks like somebody sliced you open. But, man, so I want to thank you for giving us the German perspective, Rob. And we are going to turn our attention. Sean, you're just in time. You missed Celtic Cam. He was on earlier giving us the report from Scotland. I know how much you look forward to seeing him. But you got to get on the show from the start, because he was on earlier giving us the what's up from the land of enchantment up north. Unicorns and pink. And we're going to turn our attention now to the lower leagues and welcome on Chelsea Mike. Yes,
hey,
Mike.
How's it going?
Yes, feel free to tell me about Chelsea winning and Romelu Lukaku scoring, and I will give you the next 30 seconds to do so before the big gong sounds.
All right. I can do it in 5 seconds. We won a game we were supposed to win. Romelu Lukaku looked awesome.
All right. So I had to dig into the big bag of jerseys, or the big Credo jerseys, to come out with my lower league jersey, and I broke out Sheffield Wednesday for today.
Nice. The Wednesday looking all right. You know.
Hey, actually, if you look
they're
at
in mid-table, they're not getting demoted. That's an improvement over last year.
Actually, among the things that I was looking at was right now, 538 has them as third favorites to go up to be promoted to the Champions League. And Sean, 538 also has Exeter as third favorites to be promoted to League One. Now, it is 4 games in the Premier League. I think it's 6 in the lower leagues. So we're maybe about 10% of the way through the season. So the statistical analysis means nothing. But interesting tidbit that I found before I came onto the show. And so, Mike, give me what I should care about from the lower divisions.
Well, that's actually really interesting because they're both, they would both, if the playoffs started today, but neither of those teams would be in it. So I'd be interested. You know what? This week I'll take a look at 538 and I'll break that down. But I think last week the game of the week was Sunderland versus Accrington Stanley. Sunderland came in the game leading League One, and Accrington Stanley came in the game as second place in League One. And the game did go to Sunderland. 2 goals. They went up, and they went up first, and then Accrington Stanley came back. But at the end of the day, Sunderland scored the goal to win the game and stay atop League One. Sunderland, a team we've talked about on this segment a lot. We know the American affinities, but I've said just objectively, the movies notwithstanding, that Sunderland's looked almost like a team of destiny this year in League One. And I don't think anything has been shown to slow them down. Now, 6 games in, about a sixth of the way through the season, or a seventh of the way through the season, ish in the lower leagues. So there's going to be a lot of change. That League One table, the way that I'm looking at it right now, there's 7 teams, including Burton, who's outside the playoff as it stands at the moment. But it's a bunch of old familiar names in League One. Sunderland popping up to second with Accrington Stanley's defeat is Wigan. And then right behind them are Bolton Wanderers. Those are 3 Premier League teams. And
but you also
that their fan base is, they want them to go back up.
Yeah.
Wigan, what a great story of reclamation that would be.
But you had Portsmouth too, who before that, with a recent skid, were playing relatively well. So they're back mid-table, but that's another relatively familiar team that had, I believe the FA Cup final a while ago, and they have a story, and they do have a fan base. So it would be, I think that's the appeal of League One, is that I think as we've been getting longer in the tooth with our Premier League availability, we're able to recognize a lot more of these squads and get interested in how they're going to perform. And you rarely saw that, at least on this side of the pond, all the way down in League One. So that's positive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, them showing the lower league games has been a boon. I'm going to shift over to the Championship now for a second. Fulham took the L this week. Sean, I know you were I know you were wandering around Craven Cottage. We've talked about Fulham. Fulham is the only team in lower league football to have spent more than 15 million pounds on their team this year. They're also spending a lot of money on Craven Cottage. Now they've only lost one. They lost one. They drew their first game, and they only lost one game, but that put them in second behind West Brom, and tied with Stoke. And let's face it, we all want Stoke to be up because there's nothing like the cold night in Stoke. I mean, that needs to have meaning.
Can't stand Stoke.
on a Tuesday, obviously.
But I wanted to ask you guys. Fulham invested heavily. It's early, but I mean, you know, if Fulham, even if they go to the playoffs, how big of a disaster is that for Fulham?
I think
and how all in do you think they are?
I think it's a huge disaster. I think Fulham has to finish first or second. They have to. Fulham was a bit of a snake-bitten team last year. I mean, we saw a squad that was dropping more than 2. They're dropping 3 points in games that I don't want to say they dominated, but they were definitely in. And they had a lot of just bad breaks against teams that were clearly worse than them if the table didn't reflect that. By them spending money in the championship now coming out of COVID leads you to believe that they would also agree. They are playing to get directly back into the Premier League as soon as possible because they had to have seen last season and been relatively intrigued at the possibility of them being able to compete at more of a Bournemouth level as opposed to being a yo-yo West Brom Norwich team. I mean, I think the most disappointing thing for me is actually seeing West Brom at the top of the table because we all know they're going to go, if they go up, they'll be right back down. And it's not a squad. I mean, they're not even going to pull a QPR and try and battle it out for a while. So the championship will get messier, but I think you're going to see a clear divide of the 6 teams that are going to be in the playoff. You'll probably see a 7th team, the 6 teams that are going to go up and be in the playoff. I think you'll see a 7th team that will hang around and probably battle for that final spot. But then after that, I think there's going to be a clear gap. I mean, Fulham they look like a really good championship level team. So I think they run away with the championship, honestly.
Yeah. I think that their loss recently was a blip. I mean, I think I don't see them in the playoff. I see them top. I see them winning pretty handily, actually, going on. I know it's early, but because of everything that Stead just said, they kind of got the raw deal of getting, relegated last year, just the way the 8 games finished, where you would look at, even if you didn't like look at stats at the end, if you watched games with them, they were not an easy W.
They gave everybody trouble. They gave everybody trouble. Yep.
And it was something that you were rooting for them unless they weren't, if they weren't playing your team, you were rooting for them. So I do see them being strong enough to, to be able to kind of push themselves right back up. And if breaks fall for them, I could see them hanging around for a couple of years, maybe not even mid-table, but kind of more like a Palace, Southampton kind of team, that's there. But hey, I mean, the longer they're there, the more money they're making, the longer if they invest it well and they bring people up through the academy, anything can happen.
I mean, as much as it was a bad loss for Fulham, it was a great win for Blackpool. Blackpool, of course, recently promoted through the playoffs last year. So recently promoted side coming up, beating a team that's clearly just designed to go back up to the Premiership. Good win for Blackpool last week. We talked about Accrington Stanley losing this week. Sean, do you remember the Ian Rush commercial?
Oh my God. Which one?
The milk one?
Which one?
The milk.
Oh, the milk one. Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. I want to say you're going to go to Accrington Stanley.
Yeah.
Accrington Stanley definitely could have used a little bit more milk, a little bit more protein, which of course provides the entree to go talk about Forest Green.
Yeah.
Our mighty vegans down in League 2. who won over the weekend, staying in first place. They're looking fine. Surprises from League Two, Hartlepool, who's just up from the conference, in first playoff position right now. Also Harrogate Town, who have been up. This is their second year up from the conference, and are so resource limited as a team that Google still doesn't have their crest. Still. They're coming in second place. Oldham, and again, the big story I've been highlighting throughout our talks, Oldham, the Charter Premier League member, the watch for them going down, they got obliterated this weekend. I think it was 6-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they are looking like a team that is going to drop out of the league. Do you guys think it means anything if a Premier League team drops out of the league?
I think at this point, all of us outside of London, Sean, would really struggle to remember that Oldham were in the Premier League.
True.
So it is the story insofar as a team that was an original member of the Premier League drops out, but it's not the same as one of the big ones. If Portsmouth drops out of the league, that becomes a story. If Sunderland, who have been in the league multiple times recently, Sean, when was the last time Oldham were even in the Premier League?
Oh God, they got relegated in the 90-something season and have never come back.
Yeah, they were only up for 1 year. They were one of the first teams relegated from the Premier League as well, and they haven't been back up to top.
So it's not a team that has been in the Premier League maybe in the last 30 years. So when we're looking, there is a lot of recency to it, right? They were in the Premier League once, got relegated, haven't been back since. You almost forget that they were ever in it, other than the fact that they could become the first team from the Premier League to be relegated, but they wouldn't be the first team in English history that played in the first division that was relegated to the conference or even went defunct. I'm pretty sure at one point Wimbledon must have played in the Premier League before they became MK Dons.
They did.
Robbie Musto.
Those are the Rob. Yeah.
Oldham in the very first Premier League
Robbie Earl played for
which was 22 teams. Oldham were in, Wimbledon were in, and Ipswich Town were in as well. And look where they are. They're in the bottom, aren't they, in League One at the moment?
Yep.
Blackburn, Middlesbrough, these are teams that have struggled to get back in. So I was just looking at League, was it the League One or League Two division? I think in the League One division, there are 7 FA Cup winners since 1980.
Wow.
7.
Yeah.
Which is how some of the mighty have fallen.
Well, we've talked about how finances and stuff can get in the way. Sean, give us the report on Exeter, your local club.
Exeter have started the season a bit slowly. We had a win, and then there was a series of draws, which were mainly one away. But in the last couple of games, our striker Matt Jay has come a little bit on fire. He's scored 5, I think, in the last 3 games, and they played away on Saturday against the only football team that has the word for a female anatomy in it, and it was their biggest win for biggest away win for about a year, I think. So that was great.
I've got to double check. I think I know what the name of the team is, and it is actually not that offensive.
So Exeter playing very well. I mentioned on our pods last year that there was a young guy coming through, and he's now getting in the squad. So I had a semi-promise. I'm going to a party on Saturday where I'm meeting some of the guys that know Alfie, and I'm hoping that by the end of the season we'll have a little competition. We'll get a signed Alfie shirt, and
what are we going to do with said signed Alfie shirt?
Well, when he signs for Man U, you'll be very happy.
Yes, yes, I will.
They've already put a bid in for 150 grand for him, apparently, which was turned down. So.
Well, the one thing that we do need to do is schedule a general watch party for the next time that they play Forest Green, simply because I want to hear one of the away fans, as I've been saying to Mike, it has become a thing that when the Forest Green players go over injured, all the opposing fans start singing, "Hey, you vegan bastards, stop eating our grass."
Oh, really? I must go to the game just for that. That's fantastic.
Oh, man. So, yeah, tick tock. It is time for us to put an end to these festivities. Mike, any parting words on the lower leagues?
Let me do two last shots. One, my lower league game of the week this week is actually on Wednesday, Birmingham Fulham. I don't know if that'll be on TV. That sounds like the kind of game that will. But check your ESPN Plus listings for Championship football. One more thing, and I'm going to say something that's going to come as a shock to you. I have complained for the entire last week about the absolute and total overexposure of Cristiano Ronaldo's first game back with Manchester United. In fact, not only did I accurately predict the scoreline 4-1, and this is written down for all of you out there.
Yeah, I know.
It's been wildly circulated. But I also called how Rebecca Hall would call it. But I want to say this. Stuff like that is great for the game of soccer, especially here in the United States, especially in a place where Cristiano Ronaldo is a name. Cristiano Ronaldo stepped up to the plate for soccer worldwide. He got hyped up. He delivered. You don't see that every day. And, congrats to Cristiano Ronaldo. It was a great day for football on Saturday. I hope Man U loses every other game this year.
Bite me. Byron Rob, if you're still there, give us some parting thoughts on the Bundesliga in Germany as we hit the bricks.
You just watch the games because they're entertaining. The fans are back. It's roaring. They're loud. And I would say if you want a team to look out for Bayer Leverkusen. They got two players, Patrick Schick and Florian Wirtz, who are going to take them to the top, at least as high as possible. Two great players, young, hungry, talented. And whenever Leverkusen decides to cash out for Florian Wirtz, who is under contract till 2026, they will make a bonanza. So they took it to Dortmund this past Friday, and I'm fully confident that they will challenge for the Champions League spots once again.
We'll have to get you on in a couple of weeks because Bayer Leverkusen's second Champions League game is, I believe, away at Celtic Park. So second Europa League game is away to Celtic at Celtic Park. So we'll have to get you on to talk a little bit about that with Celtic Cam. Larry, my friend, some parting thoughts as we hit the bricks today.
I think this weekend's going to be pretty much chalk. No real big matchups other than Chelsea and Tottenham. I mean, anything can happen in the Premier League as we've seen, but I think it's going to be, all of our teams represented here. I think Arsenal continues to grow. I think they're going to slowly turn things around. Man City's should run all over Southampton. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great but boring soccer weekend when it comes to possible upsets. I think it's gonna be more stat padding this weekend.
Sean, you were in London last week sending us some fantastic pictures of the redevelopment at Craven Cottage. So any thoughts on that or anything else as we get ready to end this podcast?
Yeah, a very quick one. So the reason that I was able to take some pictures or whatever is I normally stay with a friend who stays in a block of flats right next to the ground. So that's where I stay overnight. And I met the, I don't know what you call the sort of manager of the complex. And he, because him and I know each other, because I park my car just behind the stands normally, which is the part of the property for the complex. He's offered me the chance to go in and get one of the stadium tours because he must know the guy that runs the stadium tours. So I'm going to do that, and there'll be a part 2 which I'll send to everyone. Mike and I have noticed before there's a block of wooden seats that you can see at Craven Cottage. You know what I'm talking about? That never seem to be used or whatever. So we'll get the proper history on where those seats emanated from, and yeah, I'll do the tour next time. Next time I'm up there, and what I'll also do is take a little video for you walking under the new passageway that they've built along that Thames, because I noticed that people were walking. So that looks really, yeah, they're doing a really good job on that, and I think the capacity will be increased up to 25,000 or something. So quite a big deal for them.
I need to know the history of the actual cottage, and I want to know the disposition of the Michael Jackson statue.
Yeah, where's that gone? Because it ain't there anymore. No.
And Shad Khan did not shave his mustache as was promised in the contract when he bought the team. The agreement between him and Fayed was that if he moved the Michael Jackson statue, he would have to shave his mustache. And as of yet, he has not done that. But we do not know where the Michael Jackson statue is.
No. And also, did he not pass the club on to his son? Is that his excuse, that he no longer owns it?
Oh, that could be it. Stead, it's been real, my friend.
Oh, sorry, one last thing, Mike. This is the first week in a very long time that we've not been involved in any European competition, which is quite...
Yes. And your next game is against...
Burnley.
So
rest and win 5-0, please.
Stead, what you got as we get out of here?
Hey, Chelsea, Mike, just throwing my last 2 cents on lower leagues. I think the game from League One is actually we're going to see Accrington Stanley again against Wigan, who's now in second, to see how that plays out. I think that's actually a pivotal game. So we'll see if Accrington Stanley wants to hang up and threaten to at least get in the playoffs, then having a good showing this weekend will be very important.
Those would be very important points for Accrington Stanley.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, gentlemen, it's been real. I've enjoyed this. I want to thank Celtic Cam for coming on and giving us the lowdown on Scotland and the collective pods, everybody's second team, Celtic. Most of us.
I'm a Hearts fan. We know this.
Mike, you've been one of my best friends for many, many years. There are many things that I could say about you. I choose not to on the air while we're recording. I want to thank Coach G for getting the power back on and the internet as long as it lasted. It was really, really great to have him back and see him once again after everything that was going on with the hurricane. He's got power. He's doing great. And he even managed to come up and show up with a couple of hijinks. Thanks to Coach Matt and joining us and giving me an opportunity to talk about the Red Devils for a little bit. Byron Robb, Larry the Insurance Guy, Chelsea Mike for coming on. Of course, London Sean for waking up and pulling the uber early shift, even if you did oversleep your alarm a little bit. Good to see you after hibernating through all of August, my friend. We won't talk
no more hibernating.
We won't talk about England.
Make sure Los is on in 2 weeks' time.
I will do my best. Los said that he had a back problem. I wonder if
he'll have more than a back problem in 2 weeks' time. Trust me.
It may be a back problem, just the lower part of it in 2 weeks' time. We never know. And Stead, as always, keeping keeping us all on time. Gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. For Celtic Cam, Coach Matt, Coach G, Byron Rob, London Sean, Chelsea Mike, Larry the insurance guy, and producer Stead, I'm Mike, and this has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Cheers.
Adios, boys.